summer of 1969, I did a lot of hitchhiking back and forth between Mendocino and San Francisco to take part in peace marches, attend rock concerts, and peace and freedom party rallies. The rides that I got were mostly forgettable, except for one. It was high noon, 20 miles south of Mendocino, and I had just stuck my thumb out after being dropped off by a sympathetic straight when an International Harvester truck screeched to a halt beside me, and I was offered a lift by a tie-dyed, bearded, long-haired regulation hippie. Almost immediately, the ride began to take on serious what's wrong with this picture overtones when my driver began wildly exceeding the speed limit and knocking back beer after beer, throwing the empties out the window, and in general behaving like part of the problem rather than the solution. 15 minutes later, he pulled over to buy another six-pack at a roadside convenience store. I began seriously considering bailing out on the spot and had my hand on the door handle when he reappeared. Up to now, Charlie had been reticent to talk much. Now, that began to change. "What are you going to San Francisco for?" when I innocently replied, "An anti-war rally." Charlie's response was anything but benign. He ranted and raved for a full 5 minutes about fucking stupid hippies, then reached back over his shoulder and lifted a tarp, underneath which lay any number of extremely serious-looking guns. "See these? Next week I'm going to San Francisco to offer me some pigs. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's pigs." "But you're a hippie," I ingenuously proffered in my best Little Mary Sunshine delivery. Folks with long hair and tie-dyed clothes simply weren't supposed to act this way. "Hippies don't kill people, do they?" No, I replied. "Well, I do, so I guess I'm not a hippie. I hate hippies. Nothing but weak babies. Let the pigs walk all over them." This hippie from hell began hyperventilating, driving still faster, forcing cars onto the berm, and causing some to go into spins. Screwing up the courage to look at the speedometer, we were now going over 100. Now, he began punctuating his rant with the horn. "Did you hear what I said? I kill people." As casually as I could under the circumstances, hoping to mollify him, I asked who his victims might have been. "I've killed lots of people." "Oh? Who?"
"I said I've killed lots of people."
"Anyone in particular?" I could barely get the words out stuck in my throat and had to yell to be heard over the roar of the engine. "Last fall I got a speed freak, in bed with my old lady. I carved them both up and shoved them down the garbage disposal." He waited a beat for a response that was not forthcoming, then continued.
"Well, what would you do if you caught a spade junkie in bed with your old lady? Wouldn't you kill him and shove him down the disposal?"
"Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, right on. Wow, what I do, you bet. Most natural thing in the world," I said with as much ingenuousness as I could muster up under the circumstances. I comprehended to the very marrow of my being the full implications of holding on for dear life as I contemplating the odds of survival where I'd jump and roll from the vehicle now fast approaching the speed of sound. Looking back through the rear window, all I could see was a roadside chock-a-block with stalled cars and a vanishing point diminishing at a vertiginously escalating rate. Heading for the desert, Charlie had reached his turnoff. We went from 90 miles an hour to 0 in no time flat as he shoved on the brakes. Rather than hitting the ground running, I behaved as if I had just gotten a ride from a workaday insurance salesman. I thanked him. He zoomed off, and that was that. Or so I thought. After a few days in San Francisco, I returned to Mendocino, where it began to dawn on me that a psychopath had imprudently confessed multiple murders to me. And he knew where I lived. I was unable to find a news item at the local library about the alleged homicides. I drove to a nearby town, sold my VW, and with just enough money for a big bag of granola and a bus ticket, caught the next Greyhound back to New York. I was able to stay pleasantly high most of the time thanks to some leftover morphine from a minor industrial accident I had sustained a couple of weeks earlier. Thanks to the miracle of morphine, the only other thing I remember about the days-long coast-to-coast bus trip is the occasional waking up for what Louis Armstrong called tire inspection, i.e., taking a leak. And finally, arriving a week later in Woodstock, New York, stepping off the bus at the local newsstand, I was greeted by the following headline: Film star Sharon Tate and 4 others slain in Hollywood.